What is up, Facebook land? Welcome to another episode of the 2 Dates and a Dash podcast. I'm your host, Matt Cubbler. And before I introduce my special guest, Dale Comstock, and trust me when I tell you, this is going to be a great episode. Please do not disconnect. This is going to be amazing. Anyways, before I introduce Dale, I'm going to dedicate the show. I'm going to dedicate the show because for most of you that follow me know that I'm very big in my kids' lives. And my oldest daughter, Rebecca's a swimmer in college, and for the first time in the history of anybody being last name Cubbler, we have an All-American in the family. And she got 3 All-Americans this past week at the NCAAs in Division II swimming. And I'm very proud of her. But I'm not dedicating the show to her. I'm dedicating the show to swimming. And think about the sport of swimming. People say, wrestling's the hardest individual sport out there. And I would argue you're probably right. It's physically the hardest thing and mentally maybe to do. But think about the sport of swimming. It's the only sport that you're required to not breathe and perform. You're supposed to limit your oxygen level and then go perform. And I think that's insane when you think about that. And the amount of practice and time it takes to become great at swimming is mind-boggling. I can't swim from one end to the other without panicking. I don't like anything on my face. It drives me completely insane. My daughter somehow can swim the mile on a competitive level, and I just don't understand how that works. So my dedication tonight is to anybody who has ever decided to become a swimmer and put the time and energy and effort that it takes to become good at it. My hat's off to you. It's an amazing sport. I hated it 10 years ago, 12 years ago when she started, and it's my favorite sport today to watch. So that's my dedication. Anybody who ever swam or loves swimming. Where can you find a podcast? Anywhere. iTunes, Stitcher, Anchor, you name it. You can find it anywhere. I also have a YouTube channel. Go to Matt Cubbler, search it on YouTube, and you can find my channel with all my videos for the podcast and any other videos that I happen to do are on there as well. And if anybody wants to go to my website, it's www.mattcubbler.com, and you can find all kinds of information on me. So now a little bit about Dale. I'm not going to ruin anything other than to say that if Chuck Norris, Rambo, Galileo, and General Patton, and maybe even Einstein had a baby, it would be Dale Comstock. The dude literally, for anybody that knows me, knows that I'm a guy that wants to live my life in a way that everybody, when I die, goes, holy shit, that guy lived his life. He didn't miss a single thing in life. Let me tell you that I am literally sitting here jealous of Dale Comstock's resume, because any badass thing you've ever wanted to do in your life, check mark, he did it. So he was Delta Force, U.S. Army, Delta Force, Green Beret, many combat missions, leadership expert. He's got a doctorate, for Christ's sakes. He's former bodybuilder. He was a former professional boxer. He's got a 6th degree in 72,000 martial arts. The dude is literally Chuck Norris's worst nightmare. So without further ado, my man, Dale Comstock. What's up, buddy?
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. I'm sitting here giggling. Galileo, holy cow. No, thanks for having me on here, and for everybody out there that's listening, thanks for coming on and to give me an opportunity to present myself to you. I'm actually speaking to you live right now from Singapore. I actually live in Bali, Indonesia. I've got a home there, and I also have a home in Panama City Beach, Florida. But I spend most of my time in Bali, and the reason I spend my time in Bali is I have a company there. Basically, it's a security company, but what I specialize in is explosive detector dogs for the resort hotels there. So I supply those for my clients. I'm actually in Singapore right now. I was asked to come here by a client to, believe it or not, come here to train one of his dogs for him this week. And he's paying me pretty well to do that. And of course, I get to spend a week in Singapore on top of that. And then on Sunday, I'm heading out to Manila to basically expand my business in the Philippines. So from there, I'll finally end up in Hong Kong, and then back in the U.S. for a couple of weeks, and back in Bali for a couple of weeks. And then I'll be in Las Vegas on the 3rd of May for a speaking engagement there. And if anybody's interested, if you're in the area and you want to come, look up David Fabricius. He's in Las Vegas, and he's actually hosting this. It's a 3-day event, kind of like a leadership seminar. So that's kind of my itinerary, in case you're interested. So a little bit
insane,
about.
dude.
Sorry.
It's insane. I love the fact that we're talking and you're in Singapore and I'm in Royersford, Pennsylvania. It's just, to me, it's, a mutual friend of ours, Kelly Venden, who was a former Delta guy as well. He called in from Afghanistan. It was 4 a.m. there. So I just think it's amazing how technology works. And, we can sit here as if we're sitting at a bar talking to each other and have a clear conversation. I just think it's awesome. So let's dive into you. Let's dive into who is Dale Comstock. If you wanted to give the overview, the 35,000-foot view of Dale Comstock, who are you?
Sure. For starters, I'm an Army brat. My father was in the Army for 20 years. And I grew up in the military. The military culture is what I'm most familiar with and most comfortable with, actually. And I always knew I wanted to be a soldier. Well, I didn't always know, but when I got into my teenage years, I wanted to be a soldier. Prior to that, I wanted to be a veterinarian. And actually, at one point, I thought I wanted to join the Navy, be a sailor. For some reason, being on a ship going across the ocean, I thought that was going to be kind of cool. And glad I talked myself out of that. So I ended up joining the Army in 1981, much to my father's chagrin and dismay. He wanted me to go to college. And I basically snuck out, went and saw the recruiter. And the recruiter tried to get me to join up and wanted me to, he kind of exposed me to all the communications type stuff, electronic type MOSs. And I looked down and go, no. I want to know, can I be an airborne ranger? And man, I was easy, man. I was an easy mark. I didn't get to go to Ranger school because he lied to me. He signed me up for Ranger school and everything. I showed up the day before I leave. You don't have a Ranger slot, but you can go to 82nd and just tell your sergeant major you want to go to Ranger school. It's no problem. They'll just send you. Like, oh, okay. Like a big dummy, right? So it didn't work out that way. Anyways, I spent 20 years in the Army. I spent my first 4 years in the 82nd Airborne Division. First year in the 2nd 325th Airborne Infantry, then the last 3 years in the 82nd Long Range Reconnaissance Platoon, attached to the 313th in my military intelligence battalion. From there, I decided that I hit a crossroad. I was 20, coming up on 22. My 4-year enlistment was almost done. I was already married. I had my little girl, my daughter, my first daughter, and no education, no college education like my dad wanted me to have. And so I had to make a choice. Do I want to stay in the Army or do I want to get out? And frankly, when I was in the 82nd, in the infantry, you kind of told what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, and you don't get a lot of autonomy. And for a guy like me, I was a good soldier, but it just wasn't fulfilling. And I got the recruitment letter for Delta, and I had the opportunity to go try out. I met all the prerequisites. So I decided, and actually my mom made my decision, right? So I called my mom. So I had this idea that, I'm going to go back to California with my wife and my little baby and live with my mom for a little while until I could find a job. And I remember I asked my mom, I said, hey, Mom, this is what I want to do. Can I come home, blah, blah. And her answer was, no, not no, but hell no. She's like, you're not coming home with a wife and a baby living here, right? And I was like, okay, well, that makes it easy. So I ended up re-enlisting with the intent of going through Delta selection course. And I did. And I went through and finally made it. At the age of 23, I was, at that time, one of the youngest guys to ever make it through Delta, the selection process. Average age was about 33. I was 23, so I was way ahead of my peer group. But anyways, I spent 10 years there, and during my tenure in the unit, I was a team leader. I was a breacher. I worked with explosives. I was on the assault team. I was an acting troop sergeant major and acting troop commander for a while, and of course what we call operator training course instructor. From there, while I was there, I also attended the Special Forces qualification course. I became a Green Beret. I became a light and heavy weapons sergeant. Went back to the unit, and then 1996, I departed, went to 3rd Special Forces Group, and then basically enjoyed my time in 3rd Special Forces Group. I spent 5 years there. I only intended to stay there about a year and then go back to the unit, but I had to deal with the command sergeant major. I told him I'd stay a year and a half. And then finally I ended up taking over one of the A teams. And I actually enjoyed it. We did quite a bit. I got to teach these guys a lot of things, a lot of training that we didn't get in the unit and like to get in Delta. And so for me, it was a very fulfilling experience. I ended up retiring in 2001, pre 9/11, about a month before 9/11. And I had already started my own company. This was, it was a security company called Global Security Consultants. And when 9/11 happened, it opened the doors into the nuclear energy sector. And basically, I got called by Exelon Energy. They brought me up to Chicago, go, hey, 9/11 happened, we're all vulnerable, and, we need a consultant that can help us. And are you in? I said, of course I'm in. And the Exelon has 11 nuclear power plants. So right off the bat, I
live 1 mile from one of them. So
okay. Well, I had 11 under my belt right off the bat, and my first client was 3 Mile Island, and from there, my company went on to service. We serviced probably about 42 nuclear power plants over the course of 3 years, and my partner and I ended up selling the company to G4S, and WAC at that time known as Wackenhut, and they bought the company, and I moved on. I was also in 2002 recruited by the agency, the Alphabet company. And I asked them, I said, look, I got a company. Can I do both? And they go, well, of course, you're going to be, you'll be a contractor. So I actually started working for them, doing pretty much the same thing I did in the military, but, with a lot less Americans around me and more of the Indians. So, but it was actually one of my favorite jobs. In fact, I would say that it was better than being in the unit in the Army, and because I really had real autonomy. I was going out on my own with one other American maybe, and running real life combat operations. I had money at my disposal. I had everything, all the assets I needed to get the job done. So, anyways, I ended up doing that for 9.5 years. Well, during that time, after I sold G4S, I also reincorporated again in 2011. I sold my second company, which was called Risk Control Institute. I sold that to another company, and I decided that if I go to work for them, then I would walk away from the Alphabet company, and that's what I did. And also at that time, what happened was I got discovered in Hollywood. So I had no intention of going to Hollywood and doing that, but I got a phone call from a SEAL actually, who happened to know a Hollywood director, producer for Discovery Channel. Said, hey, we got the show. You'd be a perfect candidate. Would you like to try out? And I thought about it. I said, sure, why not? So anyways, make a long story short, I interviewed, and I ended up on Discovery Channel's One Man Army. And from there, NBC saw me. They liked what they saw. They called me and recruited me. And I ended up, out of about 2,000 applicants, ended up being on NBC Stars and Stripes with Terry Crews. And then, things just kept snowballing. From there, I met my management team in LA. Basically, they started a production company. And from there, I just started ending up on more TV shows and movie productions and things like that. So that's a little bit about my Hollywood side. Now, I don't consider myself an actor, although I try. My real job is what I do now. I like security work. I like what I'm doing because it's challenging. I still like taking it to the bad guys, and plus, this lets me travel the world, and just do. I get to stay in the culture, so to speak, because when you think about the security culture, it's just like law enforcement, the military. It's the same kind of people from the same cut of cloth, right? Same mindset, and I've been in a civilian world where I've had to work with just strictly civilians with no military law enforcement background. And man, it was like herding cats. It was a total different breed, man. They just thought differently, different. There was no sense of urgency on any part, unlike in the military, law enforcement, if you're going to do something, you do it now, you don't procrastinate, you get it done. And I had a hard time coping with that. And so that's what helped me transition and stay into the security world. So that's what I do. That's my life. Of course, I've done a bunch of other things too. I've written some books now. I've actually written 3 books officially. The first one was the Combatives Manual, hand-to-hand manual for 3rd Special Forces Group. From what I understand, became the base document for the Army-wide hand-to-hand program. I don't know that for sure, but I've heard that from others. They said that happened when I had left the Army. And then I produced, American Badass and a by the way, that book, right? So I caught a lot of flack from some what I thought were friends in the beginning, like American Badass. Oh, American Badass doesn't have to tell people he's a badass. Everybody knows he's a badass, and they thought I was full of crap, right? And I'm like, man, you judged the book by the cover, you dumb idiot, right? Because if you really read the book, it's not about being a badass. It's actually about being, and I jokingly say, it's about being a good ass, right? About doing the right thing, about being a good citizen, a good American, a good soldier, a good father, all those things. That's what a badass is, And so the book wasn't about, look at me, how bad I am. What I tried to do is make the book inspirational. So I use my life stories to help motivate other people and to show them, what is possible, man, if you put your mind to it. So anyways, but, the book's doing pretty well. It gives me lunch money, once a week. So, and then I wrote another book about my ex-wife. I basically use her, a little bit of her life story to build a theme of the book's an allegory. And I posted it for about a week, and then I took it down. I still have it. And actually, that book was plagiarized since that time. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that just yet. I'm probably going to republish the book anyways and give the proceeds to my daughter. But anyway, so I do, I do a lot of things. I do life coaching. You and I talked about that before the show. I provide optimal performance coaching for those that are very interested in actually getting out of the box of mediocrity is what I always say. And what I teach is unlike what any other life coach out there teaches, I guarantee it. I go into some very abstract areas like autogenic conditioning, kinetic molecular theory. I talk about what is really going on, what makes us who we are, and I talk about the metaphysical world as well. And I basically share what allows me to be successful. And it's not just because I'm a hard charger, and I burn the midnight oil. No, it's more than that. It's a certain way of thinking and challenging paradigms. So I address that in an 8-week curriculum with my clients, and I think I've been very successful so far. I've gotten good reviews over the last year and a half that I've been doing it. Unfortunately, it's one of those things I just do it as I have time because I have a real day job with my security company and all the other things I've got going on. I actually have 2 families, one in Indonesia and one in Florida that I support. So I stay very busy. That's a little bit about my background. Feel free to ask whatever you want.
I don't even know. Let's let everybody digest all that for a second. There's so many ways that I could go, and everybody knows the show is unscripted. I don't write anything down. I have nothing prepared. I do my homework on you as a person, and just so I know the person I'm going to be speaking to, but I don't have a plan. And of all those things that you've done, and listen, we have a lot of similar backgrounds, a lot of similar traits, same mindsets. So I connect with you in a lot of different ways. But one of the things that following you on social media, and for everybody's knowledge, this is the first time he and I have ever spoken. We've been friends on social media for 7-8 years, whatever it's been, but we've never actually had a conversation. And the one thing I do pay attention to is your social media, and it's interesting on many levels, from what you're doing and with the canine training and your security work and your opinions on politics and life and your ex and everything else. It's all very interesting. But one thing that's very clear that isn't diluted by bravado or being the American badass is that you love your kids. Yes. And that you're a father. And I think one of the things that's missing in this world is the celebration of men who can go out and do the things that maybe others find less than attractive, the things that you have to go do in order to be free, the things you have to do in order to be safe, the decisions you have to make that aren't necessarily popular. But the reality is that you go home and you love your kids, and you make sure that they're provided for. Let's talk about your kids. How many? I know you have 2 that I know of. I think 3 though, right?
Actually, I got 4 that I know of.
Trust me, I know about you.
I have a Green Beret, man. You travel the world. No, it sounds bad, but no, I have 4 kids. My oldest one, she's 34. I got my son who's 31, who's also a Green Beret. He's out at Campbell right now, and then I've got I've got my 19-year-old daughter who's going to nursing school. She lives in El Paso. And then I've got my 9-year-old daughter that's in Panama City Beach. And then I've got basically 3 stepkids here in Indonesia. And they're all teenagers as well. So, yeah, I love my kids, man. So for me, my children have always been my focal point. And, you know, a lot of, and I can't speak for other fathers, I guess, but, you know, for me, it's the most important thing to me. It's what life's all about, is perpetuating my kind, raising my kids to be good people, enjoying my time with them and making them happy, you know, and, you know, successful adults. So my 2 oldest kids are both college graduates. Both of them have double bachelor's degrees. My oldest daughter is an entrepreneur. She's also a life coach, performance coach for women. She does very well at that. My son, as I mentioned, he's got a degree in biology and animal science. He wanted to be a veterinarian until he saw me on a one-man army. He goes, "That's it, Dad, I'm doing the army," you know. And I couldn't stop him, but at least he went in with a couple degrees, and so he's now a Green Beret himself. As I see going to college now, and my 9-year-old, I keep asking, "What do you want to be?" She keeps saying she wants to go to a police officer. So we'll see if that's true or not, if she changes her mind. But that's what she's saying now. So I said, that's cool. Nothing wrong with that.
No,
go ahead.
It's tough being a cop in today's climate. I mean, I've been a cop 26 years, and I can tell you that from 1993 until today, the job has been turned upside on its head, and it's I don't see it getting any better with technology the way it is, and the way the world is mindset. The mindset of the world is, it's not getting any better to be a police officer, any safer to be a police officer, any less focalized on. I mean, it's literally everything you do is on a videotape somewhere. Yeah,
you know what? And I'll be the first guy to tell you, if you've been following me long enough, you know I'm not politically correct. I could care less about your feelings because they're your feelings, right? So I just say what's on my mind, and either you like it or you don't. I don't care, you know. And I exercise my freedom of speech, and I exercise my right to say what I want, what I think. And so, you know, when it comes to that, you're right. You know, law enforcement has been very disrespected by everybody from, you know, the president, not our president, current president, but the former president on down. I mean, I have a lot of respect for police officers. There are some douchebags out there, just like in the military, but on the whole, you know, I have a lot of respect for the police because of what you have to do. And my experience with the police, and it's quite extensive. I've worked with the police quite a bit. They're good guys, man. They're just like us, just like me, you know, and they think the same way. And, you know, and I know what they're doing. They're out trying to do a job, and they're not in it for the money, because you're never going to get rich being a cop, just like a soldier. You're never going to be rich. So you're in it for other purposes. You're in it for your principle, for a sense of duty and honor and country. And you're right. This, you know, the social landscape is changing so much so that it's like the liberalism is just, you know, I mean, I'm just appalled at how police are, treated, and basically just the victim is always, or the perpetrator is always believed before the police officer, you know, and the police officer is always the one got to, you know, prove his own innocence. So I have much respect for the police. I told my daughter the same thing. I said, you know, it's a hard job, but you know what? On the other hand, if you're willing to take on that challenge, you know, that's Comstock for you. You know, that's what we do, man. You know, we're not put off by that. And I said, if that's what you want to do, don't run away, don't shy away, no matter what you hear. You know, and for me, and like I said, you know, with my kids, you know, I try to spend as much time as I can with them. Unfortunately, you know, because of my job in the military, even as a contractor, I probably spent more than half my life away from my children. But it was a labor of love, you know, because I knew I had to take care of them. I wanted to put my kids through college. I wanted to do everything I could do for them, everything I could give them. And the only way that was possible was for me to work in the fields that I work in. And so, you know, I look at, you know, the time away, you know, I missed that time. But I also feel good about the fact that, you know, I went there and I did something for them. And that was my sacrifice. I always hate it when I hear women say, or mothers say, well, I have to stay home and raise the kids. Why are you out doing this? Like, well, what, getting ambushed? Yeah, lucky you get to stay home with the kids, you know, appreciate it, enjoy it. I don't care how bad your kids are, man. If they drive you crazy, enjoy them, because they're not always going to be that way. They're going to grow up and they're going to be adults, and they're going to go, man, I wish I could spend that time with them again. Take it from a father who wishes he could have spent more time with his kids, but didn't, because he wanted to take care of his kids. The life is not fair. The world's not fair. You do what you got to do. But ultimately, for me, women come and go. As you know, my marriages are in and out. I don't do very good at marriages. That's the one thing I'm a failure at, apparently. But my kids are my constant, man. They're always there. They always support me, and I always have a good relationship with all of them. And so that's for me what is most important. As long as they're happy and I can make them happy, take care of them, I don't care about anything else.
And I think there's a level of understanding that I have, and I know a lot of people that are watching this understand the word sacrifice and what does that mean, right? And I'm more of I try to get deeper into the mindset of what can cause somebody to sacrifice. And I tell people, while I was only in the military for 4 years, I was Army intelligence, and I obviously wasn't married and didn't have kids at that time, but I sacrificed time away from home and were other guys and friends of mine that were doing other things that were way more enjoyable from 18 to 22. That's what I chose to do. And that sacrifice led me to becoming a cop. And I tell my wife and kids all the time that, I've missed more Christmases and birthdays and Thanksgivings and holidays than anyone should. I've worked nights and slept during the day, so I saw my kids for an hour and a half and back to work I go. There's choices that you make in order to do several things. Number one, financially provide. Number two, set an example. My kids will never think that I abandoned them. They'll know that sacrifice requires hard choices. Right. And I want my kids to know that not every choice you're going to make is going to be the choice that's going to be the easiest for you, but it sometimes has to help other people and sacrifice the people that you love the most, time with them, in order to be able to provide that for others. And I think there's a piece of the world that's missing that concept.
Yeah.
I get the need and the want to be every day home at 5, have dinner, watch, sitcoms till 10, kids go to bed, hang out with your wife, go to sleep, and start all over again. Have your weekends off, go to the movies, check out the zoo, whatever. I get that. And that would be fantastic if everybody could live that life and make it work. But there has to be people that sacrifice. There has to be people that go, firemen working 24-hour shifts and running into buildings that are on fire when people are running out. EMTs, paramedics that are going into the most disgusting, trauma-ridden scenarios and trying to fix you to get you to the hospital so you live. And police officers and military. It's real. That's a real thing that's been going on for hundreds of years, but we somehow forgot the value of that and how important that is in today's society to allow for that sacrifice to have value.
Yeah, I agree. And, fortunately, I was raised in a family where my father was a very loving father. Him and my mother stayed married for like 55 years. So I grew up and I was able to see the example of what good parenting was like, what a loving mother and father was like. And my father was very good to us. It was just me and my sister. But, he did what, he set the example for me. And I've tried my hardest, albeit, I have different circumstances. I've tried my best to show my son how to be a man, and also my daughters what they should expect of men, of real men and fathers, and how to be good women. And I think I've been very successful at it. I always wanted to have children when I was young. And actually I had my first daughter when I was 21, which is perfect. And some people go, oh, why have kids when you're so young? And my answer has always been because when they get into their older years, when they get into their teenage years, I want to still be young enough and spry enough that I can go out and wrestle with my son in the front yard. I can go hiking with, I can still be on their level. In fact, my son, I was 47 years old when I actually started competitive bodybuilding. My son at the time was 23. And he and I actually did our first competitive bodybuilding show together. How cool is that? I'm 47, he's going 23, and we're in the heavyweight division in a bodybuilding show. And I actually beat him. I actually beat him by 1 point, by one slot, But but how cool is that? And I was actually up there as a family. I had my ex-wife up there as well. But that's where I wanted to be. My son and the martial arts together. My daughters, same thing. I teach them martial arts. But I've always been, even at my age now, I'm up on, I still feel like I'm in my 30s, and I can go out there, and if I want to spar with my son, I can do those things because I stayed healthy. But I made sure that I had my kids at a young enough age where I could actually enjoy them. One of the things about my father was, because of his job in the military, he had a different MOS. He was always gone. So I didn't have time with my father to come to in fact, he never came to any of my sporting events except for one. And I was so excited because he came to watch me play football, and that was the only time, and I've never forgotten that. And I don't blame him, but I take it as a lesson learned that when I have kids, I'll be there for all of their games. Whatever they do, I will always be a part of that. They'll always know you got dad in the corner, supporting it. And that was very important to me. So, I love being a father. I love kids. I think kids are cool. I've got great kids on both sides of the pond. My own biological kids and my adopted kids here in Indonesia. Those are really, really great kids. And when you treat them right, man, there's nothing more satisfying to know that they actually appreciate it. My kids sing praises all the time. Not that I asked them to, but it showed that they really acknowledged that, I was there for them. So any guys out there listening, man, and there's more important things in life. Everything I've done is cool. But really it was on the road to doing things for my kids. Everything I have done is for my kids. And one other person I've done this for, my father. So I spoke about my father here a minute ago. So when I joined the Army, my dad was really upset at me because I didn't go to college. He wanted me to go to college. I would have been the first Comstock and Romer on both sides of the family to go to college. And I just wasn't ready for college. I was a bad high school student, and it just was not interesting. I was an action guy, even as a teenager, man. I wanted to play armies and stuff. So, I went and joined the Army, and I could tell he was really hurt by that. And so I had promised him, I said, look, Dad, I said, I'll get my college degree, I promise you, I'll get that college degree. And so when I joined the Army, I wanted to do everything I could possibly do to make my father proud of me. It was all about my dad, So I did, I actually got my bachelor's degree while I was in the Army. I was a Green Beret, I was a Delta Force operator, I was a paratrooper. Then I got my master's degree right when I got out of the Army, and I got my PhD, several years later working for OGA. And and I achieved quite a bit. But I always called my dad every weekend since the time I left for the Army when I was 18. I called my father and mother every weekend just to chat and see how things are going, give them updates, see how they're doing every week. And then my father died about 6 years ago. And after he passed, dang, the guy I always called to for advice, my mentor, the one that I've done so much for, is now gone. And I have to stand on my own 2 feet. I've got to be the alpha male, so to speak, for the family. And it was at that point that I realized, now it's time for you to be, the patriarch, be the man of the whole family, and now actually take charge, because my father wasn't there anymore. So, my love for my father and my mother, but particularly my father, because he was such a good father to me, is what inspired and motivated me to be all that I can be. And then do all that I can do for my kids. And my challenge to my children is always, your job is to be better than me and make your kids better than you. That's your mission in life, that keep elevating the Comstock name to another level. So I raised the bar really, really high for them. And I hope they go, they got time to get over that bar, but I'm never going to slow down, and the reason I won't slow down is I've got a bucket list of things I still have to do. And I figure as long as I keep my bucket full, I've got to stick around to do that, to accomplish my, those tasks, because I'm not a quitter. And so my mission right now is to live to be at least 100 years old, to remain spry and healthy, and and do all those things that I want to do, you know, and I won't let age or number or my physical abilities be a limiter for me. So it's all mindset, man, all mindset and love.
That's a great transition, mindset. So a lot of what I do in my inspirational speaking, my mentorship work and with kids is to try to get them to understand what their strengths and weaknesses are, like truly know what they're good at and what they're not good at. Find out what their passion is and try to match it with a purpose. And figuring that out isn't always easy. And whether you're adults, I mean, you are constantly doing life coaching for adults who need to have some redirection or refocus. And the mindset that it takes to become a Delta operator, the mindset that it takes to become a Green Beret. You mentioned you were 23 when you became a Delta operator. I'm going to ask two questions with this. What was the mindset that set you apart and become one of the youngest to ever make it, A? And B, what was your reception like from the guys that are normally 33, 34 when they get received, or guys that have been in the unit for a long time? How did they receive you as a young 23-year-old? So we'll answer the first one first as far as the mindset.
Yeah, so as far as the mindset, you know, I don't know if it's particularly kind of special mindset other than I'm very tenacious. When I want something, I lock on like a pit bull till I get it. I was always taught, even at a young age, that winners never quit and quitters never win, right? So you have to have that sustained determination if you really want to get ahead in life. And taking no for an answer is not an option for me, right? It's just, okay, I'm going to have to figure out another way around this obstacle to get what I want. It's perseverance. So also, you know, I was a runt. Growing up, I was a small kid. Here's what's funny. My mom and dad were both 5'4", and my dad weighed like a 130, 135 pounds. They were little people, right? And I look at me, I'm like, geez, I'm 220 pounds, you know, 5'11", where that size comes. But I know where it came from. My father's side very bulky. My mother's side very tall. So, but growing up, I was kind of the runt, and I got picked on a lot. I got bullied a lot. And rather than crying to mommy and daddy, my father would basically put it in my head. He said, "Look, don't come crying to me." He said, "You come crying to me, if somebody beats you up, I'm gonna beat your ass, right?" And so he forced me to stand up for myself, even though it might have been painful. It was gonna hurt, but he taught me how to do that. And so I've always learned since that time that if I just put my mind to something, I can win, and I don't care what it is. And so, and with every, you know, and I have a saying: with every victory, I'm empowered. With every defeat, I'm more resolute. I'll never quit, and it's true, because every time I get a small victory, it just makes me stronger. It's like, man, if I did that, I can do this, and I grow. And if I fail, which I do, I fail quite a bit. You know, because of my pride. I'm like, you know what? I can't accept this. I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board until I win, you know, but I'm going to do this one way or another. If I want it bad enough, then I'm going to do this. So it's just determination. And partly because growing up as a runt, you know, I got bullied a lot. So I've always felt like I had to bigger guys. When I got to the unit, I was accepted with open arms. Nobody looked down on me. Nobody like, you know, you slipped through the cracks or anything like that. They all actually, you know, if you can make it through the Delta selection process and you make it to the unit, you got everybody's respect. It's like you went through the hard course. Unlike going through, you know, this Navy SEALs, BUDS, or a lot of these other special operations courses, Delta selection course is an individual effort. You go through it all by doing 18 events. You're not getting any coaching, mentoring. You're not getting nothing, man. You're not getting any attaboys. Nobody's yelling at you. You know, you're told what to do, when to do it, and you just do it, or you don't. And if you don't, you're out. So, you know, that's what, you know, if you can make it through that kind of a course, which was very physical, but it was also very psychological, a lot of pressure on you psychologically. Because when you spend day after day by yourself and you're just physically exhausted, it wears on your brain. And then you have so much going through your mind. Like in my case, I had a mission. I was like, I have to make it, because right before I got orders to go to the Delta selection course, I got orders to go to Fort Polk, Louisiana, to be an infantryman down there in the swamps. And I was like, if I don't make it through selection, I'm going to be living in a daggone swamp doing infantry stuff. And I said, that ain't me. That's not what I signed up for my second enlistment. So I actually had extra incentive, like, you better make it, it's either this or that. And I was so confident that I would make it through Delta that at the time I owned a small home. I did absolutely nothing to prepare to go to Fort Polk. I mean, I could have boloed the Delta selection course and literally came back, and the next day would have had to leave to Fort Polk and would have had to leave behind my home, my house, my family, my cars. I would have been in a world of hurt, no doubt about it. But I was so confident I was going to make it that I didn't prepare myself at all. I was like, I'm going to do this. And when I did, when I got through the course, just to kind of give you an idea on the numbers, it was over 100 candidates. Six of us completed the course, and 3 of us got selected. So that kind of tells you, the attrition rate is very, very high. And so, but it's mindset, it goes back to, I've always had the same mindset because of something I learned, actually, believe it or not, something I learned when I was about 15 years old playing baseball. And it's actually become the foundation and the basis for my optimal performance coaching now. And it's grounded in what's called autogenic conditioning, but that's not the only thing. But that was part of it. So I was able to learn accidentally a tool, a psychological tool that was able to help me achieve so many things that I do today. And I keep saying mindset, but it's more than just mindset. It's more than just saying, I'm going to do this. So I'm going to do it. There's more to that than this. And if you understand these ideas, I guess, and once you understand them better, you can perform better. So anyway, I kind of rambled a little bit, but everything in life is about, your attitude. And, it really is. I mean, you can choose to be happy or sad or mad, depressed. I look at things, if I have an issue, I don't go, oh my God, I got a problem, I got to fix this. I always say, I got a challenge and I'm going to win, right? So I change my mental perspective on my approach. And when I do that, I feel better. Like, for example, let's just say right now I have no money, right? I got no money. I don't go, oh my God, I got no more money. What am I going to do? I go, oh, I don't have any more money. Watch this, right? Hold my beer. And so I take it as a challenge and I figure out how I'm going to make more money, right? And so I use an analogy in my optimal coaching classes. So when you're an amateur boxer, for example, and you get ready to get in the ring with your opponent, you look across the ring and you go, oh my God, man, that guy's looks pretty muscular. He's got long arms. I hope he don't knock me out. I hope I don't get hurt. I don't want people to laugh at me. You're thinking all this bad stuff, right? You're not even thinking about how you're going to win the fight. You're just thinking about, God, please let me survive, and you hit with a lucky punch to get this over with. And so you go in there swinging like a windmill, right? Those are amateurs for you. But when you turn pro, you stand in the corner of the ring looking over there. You know what? You're thinking to yourself, he's going to punch me. It's going to hurt. People are going to boo sometimes. People are going to throw stuff. I might get knocked down a few times. I accept all that. I might lose. I accept all that. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this, this, and this, and I'm going to take this guy out. My goal is in the 3rd round. And I'm going to use a 1, 2, 3 combination to finish him off. Take a strategy of how I'm going to win. I accept all the other stuff. Now I'm focused on how am I going to win. I don't focus on what the problem is. He's big and muscular, long arms. I'm now focused on what's the challenge. The challenge is to win. Right. And so I use that analogy, that mindset in everything I do in life. I'm not put off by anything. If you said, hey, Comstock, I want you to build this, you never built a building before. I want you to build this building, you got 6 months to do it. And here's all the, okay. I'm glad if I want it, if there's something for me to get out of it, of course I'll do it. So it's mindset. I think it's very important.
Let me ask you. So you mentioned this when you were going through Delta that you didn't have a plan B. You let plan B go away. You're like, plan B's Fort Polk, and I'm not even acknowledging plan B. And it's funny that you say that because it's absolutely nothing in comparison. But back in 2008, I ran across the state of New Jersey for charity to raise money for my brother who passed away. For charities in his name. And people ask me, I'm not a runner. I mean, I hadn't run since the Army. I have military disability because of the running I did in the military and what it did to my ankles and my knees. And I'm not supposed to run, but I knew that I needed to raise money for these charities. And I'd written a book for my brother, about my brother and our life together, that was raising money for these charities. And after a while, the book wasn't selling as well. So I needed to raise more money. So I'm like, I got to create like a 7-car pileup event that people will go, holy shit, look at that, and contribute money to, right? So I decided I'm going to run across the state of New Jersey in 72 hours. And I had to be at Avalon, New Jersey at 1:00 in the afternoon. And I didn't have a plan B. I was going to run across the state of New Jersey, and I was going to arrive at 1 p.m. And people are like, well, how are you going to do that? I said, I don't know. I'm just going to run. I'll figure it out as I go. And it's that I found out, and the reason I'm bringing this up is I'm going to ask you a question at the end of this. In my lifetime, up until that moment, I had thought I'd given my everything many times. I had thought that I had gone above and beyond anything I was mentally, physically, emotionally capable of doing many times until I did that. And then I realized what my very best felt like, what my very best emotional connection to an event felt like, what my physical, most excruciating, I can't take another step. I broke 6 bones in my feet. I had a seizure on the side of the road at mile 40. I mean, I gave everything I had. And I was so emotionally done when it was over. I couldn't talk. I couldn't cry. I couldn't do anything. Like my entire body was just done. And I tell people all the time that at some point in your life, you have to get to that point. You have to figure out what you are physically, mentally, and emotionally capable of withstanding so that you know that anything else other than that isn't that bad. How hard was when you made that commitment to Delta and you were going to achieve at 23 years old, becoming one of the youngest members to ever get selected to the unit? Was that, and I guess this is a looking back on your life, was that one of the hardest times? Did you give everything you had at that moment to make that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I trained like an Olympic athlete. You have no idea how hard I trained, man. Oh my God. And when I went there, my mindset was there's no failure is not an option. Literally, I mean, people say that all the time, but I really knew it was not an option. Not having a contingency plan was kind of stupid, right? I know that. But I also feel like, you know what? Through my years of experience, I've also learned that I'm pretty good at adapting and fixing these situations and being able to redirect as needed. So I've learned to adapt and recover very quickly. So I'm not always worried that I don't have a plan. I'll figure the plan out, and it'll come to me one way or another. But yeah, you're right. It was probably mentally one of the most focused times of my life. No doubt about it. Physically, probably the best shape I've ever been in my life. I was like a machine. I was like a mindless machine with just one objective, man, and that was to succeed. And every day was calculated. Every move was calculated. Everything I needed to do, I double checked it, triple checked it, make sure that I was on my game, and that, you know, if I failed, it was not from lack of trying. And you're right. When it's all over, though, once you do something like that, it is mentally fatiguing, besides physically fatiguing. But two, when it's all over, you know, it's probably one of the greatest feelings of your life. It's like, man, I did that, you know, and wow, you know, I mean, it's like a you know, like a super high. And so that mindset, and I was fortunate because, you know, having the opportunity to go and actually succeeding at it, it's now allowed me to be more confident in everything else I do. And I would tell people out there, man, you know, take on challenges, man. Do something that you didn't think you could do. If there's something you feel like, man, I can't do that, yes, you can do that. Do it. And when you do it and you succeed, you know, and even if you don't succeed, but you do well, you're going to feel so much better and more empowered that you're going to get the confidence to do more in life. My father had a 9th grade education. My mom had a 7th grade education. Okay. Nobody in my family had a college education. I didn't achieve all I did because I have a college education. You know, those were kind of after the fact things. things I did on the side. I've achieved all I've done so far in life is because my mindset. I wanted to succeed. We call it sustained determination. I was not going to quit no matter what, if it killed me. And to this day, like I mentioned a minute ago, I'm coming up on 56 years old. I don't feel like I'm getting older. Of course I am, but I still go to the gym every day. I still work out. I'm still very fit. Mentally, I keep trying to learn. I'm a perpetual student. I'm always trying to learn more information because that's how you grow. I've got to take care of my mind and my body. It's one unit. I can't neglect one and focus on the other one because they go hand in hand. And spirit, we talk about spirit all the time. To me, again, spirit is really my attitude and my philosophy on life. As I said a minute ago, I don't have problems. I have challenges. And I sometimes when I'm confronted with an issue, that's the first thing that pops in my head. Actually, two things pop in my head. First thing is, Dale, nothing's ever as bad as it first seems. Second of all, it's not a problem, it's a challenge. And those two things start getting me going down the right way. And then I remind myself all the time, because I have to remind myself too, stop worrying about things you can't change, okay, and focus on things that you can change, and be the best that you can be.
Let me ask you this real quick. So I think people that are successful in life have struggled at something along the way, or have had obstacles in their life they've had to overcome. Because ultimately, the thing that keeps people from succeeding most of the time is fear, right? Yeah. Fear is either a propellant, or it's going to hurt you and keep you locked where you are, right? And I think if you overcome the challenge of becoming a Delta Force operator and being in combat situations, and I believe, if I'm guessing your trajectory and how your life has gone, that as you overcome challenges, your confidence grows, and your fear of failure doesn't allow you to not move forward. And I think, when I always was a risk taker, but I was a risk taker with a clause, right? I always had dude, I will go do that. But if that doesn't work out, then I'll do this. I always had that in me until I ran across New Jersey. And when I realized that when I just give everything I have, and I physically, emotionally, mentally commit to something, that no matter what I have to go through, I'm getting there. And when I did that, when I challenged myself and I overcame that, everything in my life became a lot more clearer. The choices that I made more sense, and the effort that I gave was more intentional. And I think when I listen to your story, and I look at all the things you've done since you were 18 years old when you enlisted in the Army, they're all progressions off of that first challenge.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You conquered the one thing that you had no contingency plan for, one of the hardest things on the planet to accomplish, which is to get selected into Delta Force. And everybody, it's been in movies and TV shows, and it is as elite and specialized and uncomparable to any other special operations unit in the world for a reason. And I think your success track can be squarely put into the fact that you forced yourself to become your very best to achieve that goal. And then everything after that is sort of just a step after that was propelled through the Delta Force selection.
Yeah, and so probably the best way to sum that up is calculated risk taker. I am a calculated risk taker. I don't just blindly go do something. I analyze it and figure out my strategies for it. I have alternate strategies because plan A never works, right? So but I'm a calculated risk taker in everything I do. I'm not put off by fear. I'm not fearless, because people that are fearless are too dumb to realize when they're in trouble. I have courage, but I'm not put off by the hard things. I'm not put off by fear or failure. We all fail, and I've learned through enough lessons now that there's no sense in worrying or being fearful of something you can't control. Focus on what you can control and be successful. I just I love life, and my grandfather committed suicide, and and that always I love my grandfather, my German grandfather, and it was kind of a bad. I remember when it happened. It was really stupid. I remember when I was in the unit, we got interviewed by psychologists constantly, right? They wanted to make sure that the machines were running optimally, right? So they were constantly, interviewing us and giving us tests and stuff, because, one of the reasons a guy becomes a Delta Force operator is we don't know why, right? We just know that they have a secret formula. They know that they need a certain mindset, certain characteristics of a guy to match the job. But then it was a secret, guarded secret. We didn't know what it was. But I found it interesting that one day the psychologist, after doing all the testing, he told me that I have the potential to commit suicide. And I'm like, really? And not because I was depressed or anything, but he said, all the psychological indicators were there, from all other testing, and you could probably commit suicide. And I thought, well, hell, anybody can commit suicide if you really want to, but but my grandfather did commit suicide, so I was like, well, maybe it is something genetic, I don't know. But that has actually also motivated me to enjoy life, because I'm not going to commit suicide. There's nothing bad enough to make me commit suicide, right? It's all I'm going to do is figure out another way around the issue, right, around the challenge. And as long as I have that drive in me, I'm always going to succeed. And I love, like I said a minute ago, I love living. I love experiencing. I love traveling, meeting new people, experience just new ideas and cultures and everything, man. I can't get enough of it. Every day in Bali, man, I ride my motorcycle. I got a dirt bike, I'd rather ride my dirt bike than drive the car down there. But man, it's, pretty beautiful sunny days, blue skies, ocean breeze, pretty girls, just a beautiful environment. Everything is great, And I'm like, man, how lucky are you, man? You get to live in Bali, And how did that happen? Not because I'm rich or anything like that. It's just because of perseverance. I decided that's what I wanted to do. And so that's how I live my life. I'm going to kind of segue off here a little bit real quick. So I'm 50, I'm coming up 56 now, but at the age of 52, I actually was still in combat. You probably saw the BuzzFeed article that came out, Software magazine, or articles. Yep. I was 52 at the time when I went out and went and did that particular job. I mean, there's other stuff I've been doing, but that's the one that got exposed. Not that I like to talk about those particular things, but the point to that is you're never too old. I was the oldest guy on my team. It was a composite team, different nationalities, but we were all there to do the same type of same job. And actually, I was running that, basically running that operation, all those operations. So, but I look at it, it's like, man, who else at 52 can still pick up a firearm and go out there and get it on in a street fight without petty, I mean, and very physical, and still be very physical at that. And anybody can, man. It's people have just got to change the way they think and stop believing all the lies, man, all the garbage that people put in your head, and challenge every paradigm that's out there. It's like, wait a minute, why can't I be in shape at 55 years old? Why can't I be in shape at 75 years old? Why can't I be 75 years old and have a good looking girlfriend, challenge people tell you what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to act, how you're supposed to. That's why I'm the rogue. I'm a renegade. I've always been the renegade. When I was in the unit, people used to look at me like they were all driving four-wheel drive, cheating, not them. Pick up with freaking. I was, beat my own drum. I never still have a moral and ethical standard. I never compromise that. I don't hurt you, but I try to treat people the way I want to be treated. I treat people with respect. I try to set a good example. I'm not perfect, far from it, but I try. And really, that's kind of the central theme in American Badass, the book as well, is to be a good person. I've had a lot of opportunities to make a lot of money. I can rip people off left and right. And I would rather be broke, than to go down that road, and violating my morals, my ethics, So, but by trying to be a good person, it actually pays off too. I've had a lot of good opportunities because people do trust me. They do like me. because they know that Dale just says it the way it is. I'm not politically correct. I call it the way I see it. You may like it, you may not, and people appreciate that. So.
Well, I think we're on the back end here. I know that we had a little bit of a spot there where you zapped out on your audio. That's just unfortunately the internet in Singapore probably isn't as good as it is in the United States, but there was just a little bit of period of time there. But I got the gist of it that you live your life with a moral, ethical character that forces you to make choices that at the end of the day you want people to be proud of. You want to be proud of. You want to have when your last breath is taken, what they say about Dale Comstock is going to be that he was a good man, that he served his country proudly, and then he made a difference in the world. And I think that's why I wanted to interview you. That's why I wanted to bring you on as a guest to share your story, because literally I do have resume envy, and I think it's real. It wasn't something contrived. You're not padding your resume. That's legitimately all the things that you've accomplished in your life, and you're proud of it, and you should be. And we're on the end here of the show, but I wanted to. Is there a website that people can go to? Is there a way that they can get a hold of you? I'm going to post everything in the comments with your book link and all that kind of stuff. But is there a website that people can go to for your optimal training programs and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, if you go to Dale Comstock, it's Wixit, WIXIT, and then it's a .com. So basically, if you look up Dale Comstock Wixit.com, it should take you to the link. I'll post it on my Facebook page too. I know my fan page will be on there. You can go there, and there's actually a lot on there about optimal performance coaching, my products. I've got quite a few products out there now, bulletproof backpacks, all kinds of stuff I've invented. But take a look, and then of course you can reach me on Facebook. You can reach me Instagram, LinkedIn, but mostly Facebook. I don't have a whole lot of time to get on all social media platforms, but I talk to everybody. I answer everybody. Either it's like hello, I will respond to you. That's one of my other things that I promise I would always do, is to give something back, even if it means giving back a hello. I will always do that for people out there.
Well, I appreciate it, brother. I'm going to put all the links to all your social media in the comments on the Facebook post for this video.
Okay.
Don't go anywhere. Hang tight. I just wanted to make sure that everybody has a way of connecting with you. So everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining in again to the 2 Dates at the Dash podcast. This was the episode with Dale Comstock, the incomparable Dale Comstock. I'm your host, Matt Cubbler. God bless. Take care. And for God's sake, be kind to one another.